What's up YouTube, it's Steve and I'm back with another video. Today is not going to be a grilling video, but it's a tech video. It's really my impressions, sort of a mini review of this, the Apple Watch Series 3 GPS version. So stay tuned. So as I stated in my little intro there, this is going to be my review of the Apple Watch Series 3, and again, this is only the GPS version. I know. And also, this is only the just the Series 3. This is not a review or comparison of the Apple Nike watch or the Hermes or however you say it, or the Apple Watch Edition. This is not going to be a review of any of those. Strictly going to be on this guy right here, the Apple Watch Series 3. And in this, I'm just putting this all up front. So if you guys are if this video is not what you're looking for, then you're able to go and search and find elsewhere. I will not be covering, like I said, those other editions. I'm only going to cover the size differences and the models. Like I said, the GPS versus GPS cellular. So with that, let's go ahead and get started with this. If you've been following my channel for a little bit, you'll know that probably 2-3 weeks ago I picked up this watch and I did a quick unboxing of it. I picked this up at one of the stores, local stores, and it was an open box sale. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a Series 3. Somebody had bought it, decided they didn't want it, and brought it back. So with that being said, I decided to go ahead and pick it up. I was in the market for an Apple Watch. If you've been following my channel for a while, you know about a year ago I picked this up, and this is the Garmin Vivo Active HR smartwatch. I had this for about a year, and then a little bit before that I had a Garmin Vivo Smart. So just wanted to really I basically wanted an Apple Watch, all right? And there's some reasons why. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why I felt it was time to move on from this Garmin Vivo Active HR, and briefly do a little bit of comparisons on features between the two. Like I said, I don't plan on this being a really long video. Just going to hit those points and try and move on. So with that being said, I will say this. This is the 38mm edition. The watches come in two sizes, 38mm and 42mm. And the only difference between those two is the size of the screen. Now, obviously, like I said, when I was planning on getting this watch, I did want a 42mm because, I mean, who doesn't want a bigger screen? But the 38mm is what they had, and plus it was open box. It was the price was a little lower, so the difference, 4mm was not so great for me that I wasn't going to pass this up. I think it's a great model. Also, this is strictly the GPS only model, and the reason why I did not go with a GPS and cellular is because I already have one cellular plan, and I don't feel like giving AT&T any more money than I already do per month. I don't think, for me, it's not worth it to have another data plan. A lot of people, if you watch different reviews, you'll hear people talk about the fact that you can make calls and you can listen to music and all of those different things on the cellular watches. You can do the same thing with this. You can. And I've made calls. I actually have music stored on here. The only thing you need is Bluetooth headphones, which is the same thing you could use with the GPS and cellular model of this watch. So, like I said, I didn't think the changes were great enough to where I needed a watch with its own cellular plan. I mean, one smartphone is enough for me. If you see me looking down, I've got my phone down here with some notes that I took just over the last few weeks while I've been just kind of studying this watch and everything like that. So that's what I'm kind of glancing down at from time to time. Also, With that being said, you also need to know that the watch bands are not interchangeable. And what I mean by that is simply you cannot take a 42 millimeter watch band and try and put it on a 38 millimeter watch. And vice versa, you can't take a 38 and try and put it on a 42. And the reason for that is really, really simple. If you look at, like I said earlier, the difference between the two watches is size. So with this being a 38 millimeter watch, the watch bands are like this. The 42 millimeters obviously is going to be a little longer, so it would not fit in this channel, and it's going to be a little bigger also. And by the same token, with this being a 38 millimeter, the watch band, these pieces, these connector pieces here at the top and the bottom, they are smaller and thinner, so they're not going to be able to sit in a 42 millimeter watch. And that was something that I asked about when I first bought it, because, you know, in my mind I'm thinking, okay, I can get a 32 or 38 millimeter watch and just get bigger watch bands, which is kind of a concern that I had, but it's turned out fine. And kind of addressing that, the concern that I had was whether or not the watch band would fit. Now, in the box, and like I said, I did the unboxing, and I apologize if I keep taking this thing off and putting it back on, but in the box, it comes with the watch, and then there's a band, watch band connected to it, and then there's a spare band, the one with the clip actually goes in to secure the watch. Now this is the one that was actually on the watch, and initially when I got it, it was extremely tight. I did not know that these, well, kind of common sense if you look at this. Obviously I wasn't using common sense the day I bought this watch, but you can see these watch bands, one of them is a bit longer than the other. Well, I didn't notice that right off the bat, so I put this watch on and it was tight, and I was a little disappointed. I was thinking that I was going to have to take it back to the store. I even went so far as to take the band, and I don't know if you can see that really good, but I actually took a pair of scissors and punched a hole in it, trying to make another hole for the this fastening peg to go into, and that didn't work. Even though I punched a small hole in there, that peg would not go through it. It was still too small. And something said, well, take the other band and swap it out and see what happens. And I swapped it, and so now this thing fits fine. So that's one of the great things about the Apple Watch, that even though, you know, it does come with the watch band for people with smaller wrists, but if you have a larger wrist, there is a larger band that actually comes with the smartwatch. In addition to that, Apple is not, you know, one of the great things that they did with this watch is they didn't make the bands proprietary, meaning that all you could use were Apple watch bands. They allow, you know, developers to create different Apple Watch accessories, which is unfortunate that you couldn't do that with the Garmin Vivo Active, because while it's a great watch, this band necessarily is not one of the best. And having said that, with the Apple Watch, I mean, I found this here on, one of the big concerns that I had, or still have, is worrying about bumping the watch face against the wall and cracking it. And the reason that's a concern, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I have a habit of cutting corners a little sharp, and I've dinged more than one watch and cracked the casing on it. By cutting the corners a little sharp like that. So I kind of had a concern with doing that with my Apple Watch, and I found this case online. This is the case that the face actually goes into. It just goes over it, so you've got a bit of protection. And then, of course, my favorite colors, it has the watch band, and these go on. If you're not too familiar with how the bands go on, if you can see on the back of the watch here, there's this little button right here at the bottom and top of the watch, and you simply press and hold that down and then slide the band out, and then press and hold that same button down and slide your replacement band in, and it fits. These bands, once you get them in there, there's no my initial concern was worrying about these falling off, the bands falling off, or the watch not being secure to the band. I have no concerns, even with third-party watch bands. I have no concerns with it falling out, and I'm really, really pleased with that. The next thing that I want to cover really quickly on this is battery life. Now, I do have, because I did buy a watch and I did want to be able to get notifications. That's part of the reason why we buy smartphones, tablets, or whatever, is that, for notifications and for the features that it have. I don't want to walk around with a watch with all of the features turned off. If that's the case, I could have just kept the money that I paid for this in my pocket. I will say this, because of that, the Apple Watch, in comparison to the Garmin Vivo Active, the battery life is drastically different between these two. The Apple Watch, and you can adjust settings on here so that you can get it to just what you want it to be. But if you look at these two displays, I'm trying to do this without having a lot of glare on it, and I don't know. All right. So if you look at, and of course the Apple Watch does have this wonderful security feature, which I'll address shortly. But if you look at the displays on these two, there's really no comparison. This Apple Watch is superior as far as its display to the Garmin, compared to the Garmin. The Garmin, it's one of these watches where I've actually worn it in movie theater and looked down and happened to check the time, and despite pressing the light button, or the button to activate the backlight, which I just did, and you really can't tell much of a difference, and that's part of the problem. Even when pressing that, there's not much of a difference on here. And right now, this setting for my backlight, the backlight settings go from 1 to 9. Right now on this Garmin, it's on an 8, which means it's almost maxed out, and this is what you get. The backlight, I think you can change the settings on it to stay on for however many seconds you need it to. Well, I take that back. You can set it in increments, and I think I have it on here for about 15 seconds. And a lot of times I'd have to press it a couple times just to be able to see the information that I need clearly. Whereas with the Apple Watch, I might as well leave this thing off. With the Apple Watch, I don't have that concern. Right now, the display or the brightness setting on this watch is a little less than half, and you can see how bright and vivid the display is. Even when it's dark, if I'm in a dark room, I don't have any issues with looking at this thing and seeing the information on it. And part of the reason with that, with both of these watches, is the amount of pixels that Garmin put in this. It's almost like an analog watch. They don't put a lot in there, so the display doesn't take up a lot of energy, and that's where the battery life, which is what we're actually talking about here, the battery life for the Garmin Vivo Active HR is far superior than the Apple Watch. The Garmin Vivo Active HR, I would get about a week, and that's no exaggeration. I would get a week's worth of battery life before I have to charge this thing back up. With the Apple Watch Series 3, I'm getting about 2.5 days before I have to charge it. And now a lot of people will look at that and they complain, but I don't view that as a big deal, because to be quite honest, how often do you plug up your phone or your tablet or your laptop, for that matter? Most people plug those things up every day, every other day. So what's the difference between having to charge your smartwatch? Now, if this was something like every half a day or every day I had to charge it up, I could see then. If that was the case, then I could see the concerns about battery life. But like I said, 2.5 days is pretty good. On a day when I take this off the charger, I usually take it off somewhere around 5:30 in the morning. And what I do is I don't sleep with my smartwatches on. I don't need to. That for me, it's not really a need to do that. The first night I did leave it on just to check out the alarm feature, and the alarm is very nice. It starts out really, there's different types of alarms, but starts out with a really low beeping and kind of eases in, so it kind of wakes you up. You're not startled like you would be with a regular alarm clock. But what I did for battery life, to help conserve battery life, is at the end of the day, I take this and I turn it off. I just power it off. And to do that, you just simply long press this button here, and you see at the top and bottom, the top you can slide it to turn it off, the bottom you can slide for the SOS feature, and I just turn it off. But I turn the watch off, and then I get up in the morning and put it back on, turn it on. And like I said, that gets me through 2.5 days. If I didn't, do I think I would still get pretty decent battery life? Maybe not 2.5 days, maybe 2.25. The battery life is not gonna, I don't think it would drain that drastically just sitting there overnight. In fact, the first night that I had it, it didn't drain drastically. Matter of fact, I took both of these watches off the charger. I did a test on February 23rd, and I took both watches off the charger at 5:30 a.m. and they both were at 100%. By 11:30 a.m. the Apple Watch was at 88% and the Garmin was at 98%. Now remember, a lot of that has to do with the displays and a lot of it has to do with notifications. What I did find, and I will say this here, as far as affecting battery life, I told you before that you can make calls and this thing does receive your calls, and that of course is going to drain battery. One of the things that I noticed that I was really impressed with is the fact that if somebody calls you, your phone rings, but this ring, the Apple Watch rings also. You can answer the call and take it on your watch. And the people that I've talked to while using the smartwatch have had no problems with hearing me. They said that I was pretty clear. Now for me, obviously you're on a watch, the speaker is only so big, so obviously if you're in a noisy environment, you're gonna have to hold your watch close to your face, but otherwise if you're in a pretty quiet environment, you don't need to. You can just hold your watch, you know, on your arm and talk. I didn't have any problems with that. However, with the Garmin, if the phone rings, you can press answer on it, but it doesn't take the phone, it doesn't take the call. What it does is it connects on here to your phone, and it opens your phone app. So you ultimately you're going to have to take the call on your smartphone. And going back to battery life, that's a huge. It makes a huge difference because you're not draining the watch battery with this Garmin. But if you're talking on here, obviously you are. Going back to the battery comparison that I was doing, like I said, by 11:30 a.m. the Apple Watch was at 88%, the Garmin was at 98%. At 7:08 a.m. the following morning, the Apple Watch was at 55% and the Garmin was at 94%. Another thing that I like about the Apple Watch that I did not notice on this Garmin is a security feature. You can set your your Apple Watch to require a passcode, and you've seen mine do it several times now. Every time I take it off my wrist, it automatically detects it. And if you can see up here, at the top, there is a little padlock. So I have to enter a passcode to open the watch. And the great thing is, this is the activity app watch face. It shows your biometric information. So you notice that when the watch locks, the information disappears. When the watch locks, this information disappears off the screen. If I unlock it, it shows it right back up. So you can see there the information is now available. And it doesn't just do that with this watch face, it does it with all of them, which I think is a really nice security feature. Whereas with the Garmin, what you see is what you get. Now, going back to strictly to the Apple Watch, a lot of people may wonder, how is Siri on here? And I will tell you, Siri is kind of frustrating because across the iPad, the iPhone, the Apple Watch, and then if you have an Apple computer, the experience that you get from Siri on one device to another wildly varies. Now, one of the problems that I was having with Siri is I didn't realize that you have to press the crown and hold it until Siri activates. And Siri activates by you feel a little pulse in the watch, and then the message pops up here. So she asks, what can I help you with?
I'm not sure who your grandfather is, but you can set that up in contacts on your iPhone.
So she took everything that I was saying and took it as I was asking her to message someone. That's part of what I'm talking about. Siri is partially deaf and not able to understand simple features, whereas with the iPhone, she's considerably more, she hears better, basically, and is able to carry out more functions. When it comes to music, a lot of what you hear regarding the GPS and cellular watches, and I get it, they're trying to do this to sell more of those watches and to sell these data plans, but it's not necessarily needed. When it comes to music, you are able to load your music playlist that you have on your iPhone or whatnot. You can add those to the watch. In fact, right now, all of the editions of the Apple Watch come with 8 gigs of storage. Now, there's a caveat with that. The ones that have GPS and cellular, they come with 16 gigs of storage. So obviously you're able to store more information on them. But with 8 gigs of storage, I mean, a song is maybe a few megabytes. So you can get a lot of music on this Apple Watch. And all you need to do is have a pair of Bluetooth compatible headphones. So if you're going out, working out, jogging or whatnot, just take a pair of Bluetooth headphones, pair them to this thing, and this thing pairs like a champ. And I'm gonna I can go ahead and address that now. I mean, it paired to my iPhone, it's paired to my Bluetooth headphones. It just paired quickly. All I had to do was turn the device on and search, and boom, I was listening to music through these. So you can add your playlist to your Apple Watch just by syncing it. You sync it by plug your cord to your computer or whatnot, and then put the disc to the back of your Apple Watch. Once you've got your music synced and loaded onto your Apple Watch, you no longer have to use your iPhone while working out, as you can listen via Bluetooth. That is not the case with this Garmin. With the Garmin, you cannot load music on here. Whenever I worked out using the Garmin, I still had to have my iPhone. Basically, what this did was just track my workout. This did not store music, did not play music. I still needed my iPhone, so to me that kind of defeated the purpose. But the last thing that I wanted to talk about was how quickly the Apple Watch connects via Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. With this GPS model, it connects to Wi-Fi and Bluetooth automatically. It automatically detects which one it needs to go to. So I have Wi-Fi in my house. So if I take my iPhone and I turn it off, the Apple Watch will automatically connect to my router and connect to Wi-Fi. It will still pull in everything. I'll still get all my notifications. I'll still be able to check the weather. I'll still be able to do everything that I normally do. But if I go and turn my iPhone on and I turn the Bluetooth on, it will automatically disconnect from my router and connect to my iPhone. And that's the great thing. The Apple Watch will always automatically default to the iPhone unless you turn it off. If you turn it off, then it'll go to the secondary, which is your Wi-Fi. Which is another thing. If I'm traveling and if I don't have my mobile data turned on my phone while I'm driving or whatnot, I'll just simply put the watch in airplane mode, because I don't want it wasting battery searching for a Wi-Fi connection or a phone connection when there is none. So that's just another little battery saving tip. And I guess the last thing is I'll talk a little bit about these charging cords. Now this one here is the one that came with the Garmin, and it is proprietary. There's no Nothing else you can do here. This thing is probably, I'll be generous, maybe a foot long, maybe. Does not come with its own plug. This is what you get. So it needs to be, in order to sync it, in order to charge it, it's got to be plugged either into a computer or you've got to have another wall wart around. Now this is one from my old, I think this is one from my iPhone. Since I really don't need it, I just use it to plug my watch up, my Garmin watch up, if I'm using it. And the thing is, since it's so short, I can't even plug this up and set it on my bedstand at night. I plug this up and it's sitting on the floor charging. With the Apple Watch, I was a little concerned with the length of it. This is considerably longer. Let's see here. It's not coming out too good on camera here, but there's a huge difference between the two. So this Apple Watch cord is huge. You can, of course, you can plug this into your computer if you want to, or you can plug this into a wall plug, and it's longer. I was concerned the first night that it wouldn't reach the top of my nightstand. It easily ran from the floor plug all the way up to my nightstand and sat there. And it worked just fine. And another thing, if you don't know, you can use your Apple Watch as an alarm clock at night. All you have to do is, one, make sure it's on, and two, it's plugged up and it's connected to the charger. You want to set it like this so that the crown is facing up like it is here. And this face, the watch face, normally like this, will adjust to fit the screen like this. And it'll serve as an alarm or night clock, and then if you've got an alarm set, it will automatically go off at that appropriate time. You can also set your Apple Watch to mirror pretty much everything on your iPhone, as far as notifications and things like that. So anyway, that's been my my 2 cents. This video has gone far longer than I anticipated it going. But if you guys have any questions, any comments, any concerns or anything like that, drop that down in the comment section below. If you like the video, please do hit that thumbs up, as it does help the channel out a lot. And like it and share it with others. And if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing, as I really, truly, and greatly appreciate your support. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. So until then, have a great day. Peace.